After watching James Gunn's Superman, I couldn't stop thinking about how excited I was for the Lanterns show coming next year. With it being confirmed that Guy Gardner would be coming back as well as introducing Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart to this universe, it's safe to say that I'm looking forward to this project. Then I thought about the one Lantern I really hope makes an appearance, Kyle Rayner. If you don't know who Kyle Rayner is, that's okay, I'm only mildly disappointed in you. Kyle is considered the strongest Green Lantern, even being the one and only White Lantern for a while. If you want a full history on him, then look forward to my future video where I read every single comic he's ever appeared in. But if you just want to know how he was introduced, then this is the video for you. This is Hal Jordan. He's a Green Lantern. Maybe the best Green Lantern. This is a hole in the ground. It's 12 miles in diameter, roughly. It's a very big hole, but not even close to the size of the hole in Hal Jordan's life. Not by far. You see, this hole used to be Coast City, home to a great deal Hal Jordan held dear. This was the place Hal Jordan grew up, where he worshipped at the shrine he called Father, where he first knew love. This was the place he started to become the man he is. But that's all gone now, expunged by a madman's dreams of conquest. And all that's left is, well, a hole. Some time ago, a man dropped from the stars. He was dying. His last act was to bequeath Hal Jordan a wondrous ring. The power of the ring knows few strictures. Truly, it is bounded only by the will of the wearer. With such a ring, you could do anything, if you wanted to badly enough. After Coast City was destroyed, Hal was not okay, using his ring to recreate everything, but this time making it all perfect. Eventually, his ring runs out of power, and he is contacted by a guardian who tells him to surrender his ring and return to Oa in order to be judged. Hal doesn't take very kindly to this, however, and decides that he will go to Oa, but he'll be collecting new rings on his way. Hal arrives, and for some reason, somehow, the Guardians seem to just have a Green Lantern Sinestro laying around like a spare tire. The two of them then have a strangely pathetic-looking fight where I realize Sinestro has the same build as an anemic 12-year-old. It's ended by Hal actually snapping the neck of his biggest villain in a wonderfully cold moment. It gets colder when Kilowog appears and starts a fight with Hal once again emerging victorious by frying the alien to dust. Now officially evil, Hal has killed all of the Guardians, except for one. Rising from the corpses is Ganthet, and he is a tiny man with a tiny plan. Finally, we see Kyle outside in an alleyway where he basically gets flash-bombed by Ganthet. Kyle pretty much gets the ring thrown at his face and... Wait a moment. Is that a 9-inch nail shirt? Oh god. And yes, that's a very valid response from Kyle there. We then do a flash forward where we see Kyle's first fight, but we promptly go back to see him immediately show off his cool new ring to his girlfriend. Or ex-girlfriend. I'm not certain on the specifics, but her name's Alex. He figures that with this ring he may as well be a superhero, but Alex has some doubts since he can barely hold down his job as a freelancer, which sounds impossible to fail at. So Kyle comes up with the time-old classic idea where he's a hero and she takes photos of him as a reporter. I wonder where I've heard of that one before. The two of them then end up dating again, and Kyle immediately heads for the bed, but she drags him to the couch where he belongs. It turns out either way he was going to take his clothes off, and I'm wondering how one washes a couch now. We're nearly caught up to where the issue started as Kyle shows off his complete lack of self-preservation instinct and suits up. All of which brings us back to the here and now. Unfortunately. Kyle is on his way to being beaten to death when he finally discovers the main thing of being a Green Lantern, the constructs. And after beating the bad guy, we get a front row seat to his humility, which appears to be missing. But what's not missing is our first look at his classic costume, personally one of my favorite Green Lantern uniforms. I'm not the only one who likes it, as Alex seems to have forced Kyle into a photo shoot and there's not much else to say, other than to specifically show off his one pose Kyle does. Meanwhile, there's a prison break happening, and Mongol is on the hunt for Superman, or the second best option, Green Lantern. For those of you who don't know who Mongol is, to put it incredibly simply, he's a big alien brute who wants to kill Superman. And in the biggest plot twist of the century, the homeless man from earlier actually reappears, only to be quickly killed off soon after. R.I.P. Mr. Turner. While that innocent man is murdered, Kyle's been having fun creating a motorcycle. At least he was having fun until Mongol appeared. Now there's been a classic misunderstanding and identity issue as Mongol beats the shit out of Kyle thinking that he's Hal, but with a costume change. Kyle's story isn't cut way too short due to Superman swooping in to save the day, now being late for his much-needed haircut. Kyle basically leaps at the chance to fight with Superman, but he ends up just getting backhanded into the ocean. He surges out and finally actually joins the fight, but once again has to be saved by Superman. The two of them, well, mostly Superman, then defeat Mongol, or at least they think they do. Only for Mongol to then show off Green Lantern's biggest weakness, the color yellow. But alas! Kyle is immune to the color yellow, making him completely unique from the other Lanterns. And who knew all you needed to really defeat Mongol was an entire train? Kyle and Mullet Man then say their farewells, and Kyle has a moment with Alex where he really starts to believe he actually can be a hero. Shame that homeless guy gave a mysterious space thing to some shady people in the shadows earlier, and it's a shame they know who Alex is. So these shady people have now sent someone called Major Force after Green Lantern and presumably Alex as well. Now, we're about to see a very, very unfortunate sequence of events. While Kyle is dealing with his own problems, Alex is struggling for her life. It's when Kyle arrives home that what is probably his most iconic moment happens. Think about it. You've barely been a hero for probably no more than 2 weeks, and the girl you love has been brutally murdered and stuffed in her own fridge. This is where the term fridging a character actually originated from, the term being coined by Gail Simone in 1999. Of course, a fight breaks out between Kyle and Major Force, and Kyle actually manages to make him bleed despite Major Force being supposedly invulnerable. Kyle is about to kill him when suddenly his ring seems to run out of power for the first time. Kyle then basically gets beat to shit repeatedly until Major Force decides to show him the strange green object, which sucks for him but is great for Kyle as it turns into the classic Green Lantern's, well, lantern. And in an act I very much did not expect, Kyle creates an entire electric chair to basically attempt an execution on Major Force. So Kyle then pretty much tortures the guy when he's unable to kill him, but he ends up getting interrupted by LASCU, the Los Angeles Special Crimes Unit, who may understandably mistake the situation given the, electric chair. Also the body in the fridge. This is not a good look for Kyle, so he decides to make himself even more incriminating by running, or well, flying away. Then promptly having a breakdown after everything, which is deserved. He's had a wild 2 weeks. What he doesn't deserve is to be immediately jump-scared in his own home. Alan Scott is the original Green Lantern, and I'm not going to say much else about him here. If you want a video about him, then please leave a comment below. Still in the midst of a mental breakdown, Kyle makes a gun and points it at the random stranger in his apartment, as I imagine many Americans do. So he gets slapped into the wall. Alan tries to reason with Kyle, but Kyle understandably is wary of this spooky dude in a cape. Alan then basically gives a small exposition dump to Kyle, which I'll summarize here. He says he also holds a lantern ring and was once called Green Lantern himself. He explains that lanterns used to be all over the universe until recently. Wonder why that is. Kyle doesn't give a shit about this, due to him having what is most likely the worst day in his entire life. But Alan doesn't care about that and continues speaking. He reveals that Kyle has the final Green Lantern ring, and Kyle basically says he doesn't want it, so Alan does some show and tell. The man known as Green Lantern before you was named Hal Jordan. The Corps was the peacekeeping tool of the Guardians of the Universe. The 3,600 members of the Corps came from almost as many planets. They were each armed with a ring of power and given a sector of space to protect. Except for weakness against anything yellow and the need to be recharged every 24 hours, the rings were limited only by the bearer's will. But everything has changed. I knew Hal Jordan. I fought at his side. The Guardians never had a more noble or fearless servant. I was never a member of the Corps. My power is derived from a different source. Even so. You know about the destruction of Coast City? It was once Hal Jordan's home. It seems he tried to resurrect it, but he needed more power. The Guardians sent Hal's fellow Corps members against him. Many died. The Guardians perished, but apparently preserved a lone ring, the one you wear now. He's become something other. Understand, Hal's not evil. He believes he's acting for the right reasons, but he's no less dangerous because of it. After that very large exposition dump that I tried my best to trim down, Alan then restates how Kyle is the last of the Green Lantern Corps. Kyle is now faced with the classic dilemma of accepting the responsibility that was basically thrown at him, or throwing it away himself. Also, just a reminder, he is not the chosen one. He's the guy Ganthet said you'll do, too. Kyle needs time to think, so Alan kind of just wisps away, leaving him alone. He goes to sit by a billboard and think finally about everything that has happened within the last 2 or so weeks. He thinks about how this is all so much bigger than he thought, and about how he could just leave it all and never think twice of it again. But then he thinks about what Alex would say, so he puts his mask on and flies away, vowing to not let Alex down. I hope you all enjoyed this video about Kyle Rayner, and if you want to see more about him, then please think about subscribing as I'm working on my biggest project ever, reading every single comic Kyle has ever appeared in. If you like this, then consider actually liking it by pressing on that thumbs up, and if you really liked it, then please consider checking out my Patreon in the description below. If you join my Patreon, even at the lowest level, you gain the ability to vote on the topic of my future videos, so please think about checking that out and supporting me so that I can keep making these. That is all for today, so good morning, good evening, and good night, everyone.